Hi everyone, I hope you're doing really well. I'm running a little bit late, so just bear with me. I'm just going to be a few minutes getting ready. I'm just trying to clean my teeth because I've literally just stopped doing what I'm doing. I'm very, very tired. So can you just spend the next few minutes just getting as many people as you can on here, sending text messages if you need to. This is by far the most important evidence I have shown in 4 years. Okay, if you don't know who this is on the picture, it's Alistair Crowley, and we're going to be talking a lot about him in this, and it's going to be a fairly long live. There's a lot of evidence that I'm going to be showing. So just spend the next few minutes, sort of 3 or 4 minutes or so, or five, just trying to get as many people on here as you can, please, all right, whilst I'm preparing. Thank you. Hi everyone, I hope you're doing really well. I'm sorry I was a bit late there. I was a bit late getting back, so I just need to clean my teeth. I do need to drink and eat really, but I'll wait for a while. I might have a sort of break. Now this is going to be quite a long live stream, but it is, as I've said at the beginning, by far the most important evidence in the last 4 years. If you don't know who this is Aleister Crowley. Now I heard about him months and months and months ago. I didn't really go into too much depth with him because obviously I needed to find other evidence first rather than just going straight into talking about black magic, talking about all of these sort of wizard elements in everything going on here. But now I can't ignore it with what I'm starting to find. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the evidence that led me to look into Aleister Crowley and what I think, based on everything that we've got, all of the evidence, what I think is going on with all of this now, okay, based on all of the evidence, okay. Now, just a little bit of a summary. So, because this is so important, what I'm going to be showing you, and we might have some new people on here because I've sort of pushed it out a little bit more today to advertise it. I'm going to give a little bit of an update or a summary as to who I am and how I got into this position and etc. So, my name is Gary Waterman. It's the 4th of May, isn't it now, 2026. I was born in Kent in 1977, and I was born to what seemed to be a very normal family at the time. I now suspect they're possibly not all my real family. And I was I stayed on at school. I did A levels, just to give you a little bit of a background about me, things you might not know. And I did art. So I got an A in art in my GCSE, sorry. And then I did art in my A levels and craft design and technology. And when I left school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I ended up working with my dad as a carpenter for quite a while. And my dad wanted me to take over the business. He had big contracts at the BBC. He had contracts at Pfizer. He had contracts at All England Lawn and Tennis Club, in other words, Wimbledon. He had contracts at a company called HT Webs, which all of these organizations make critical connections into the criminal network immediately, like key areas, okay? My dad had been a carpenter for a very long time. Anyway, I didn't want to do the job, to be honest with you. It wasn't something that I enjoyed. I wanted to work with people, and I had this sort of quest, if you like, to help people and do something rather than just, you know, in working as a trade with not really involvement with many people or anything like that. And I didn't really enjoy the work. So anyway, I sort of worked on and off with my dad, but in between that, I went and did other things. So in 1998, I became just out of the blue, wanted to do bar work as a at Butlins in Minehead. So I left Kent for the first time and went for 2 seasons to Minehead in Somerset, where I was a barman for the first season, and then I was asked to go back as a bar supervisor for the second season. So that was in 1998. I took my driving test whilst I was down there, actually. Anyway, in between that, I worked with my dad a little bit in between that, and I ended up also doing some bar work in the areas where I lived. And that was predominantly, so I was born in Chatham, and then I lived in Walderslade for most of my childhood, I suppose, or up until my sort of mid-teens or early teens, actually. And then I went for a year after my mum and dad split up. I went and lived in Erith, near Bexley Heath, nearer London, for about a year. And then my dad and I then moved back down, and we lived in Rochester, which is relevant to Charles Dickens in all of this, which actually becomes extremely relevant in all of this. Anyway, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So in 2000, well, before that, I was working as a security officer in a shopping centre in Maidstone in Kent. And I did 2 periods of working as a security officer there in a shopping centre. And in between that, I think it's when I went and did some of the seasons at Minehead as well. Anyway, during that job, I sort of got to know some of the police, and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to give the police a go. I love the idea of helping people and, you know, being part of some sort of community engagement to help victims of crime. Never thought I'd get in, you know, quite a small guy, very unconfident, ended up getting in. And I joined Kent Police in 2000, as I said. And I remember seeing during my training period in 2001, whilst I was training, the World Trade Center buildings collapse on the television whilst I was training in Ashford in Kent. Little did I know, I would find the most important evidence in history, practically, certainly in modern times, linking into that World Trade Center disaster all these years later. Anyway, I always wanted to live in a different location, really. I've had this sort of quest to, or thirst of traveling, I suppose. And in 2006, without knowing anybody down there at all, I transferred to Dorset Police. I'd been down there on holiday a couple of times. I actually requested to go to Devon and Cornwall first of all, but they claimed I forgot a bit of paperwork. I suspect this may have been staged because of who I may be in this. And I ended up going for the Dorset next, which is somewhere that I really liked anyway, and I got in. So I transferred down there not knowing anyone at all in 2006, and it was great. It was absolutely brilliant. New area, lovely beach, new places to explore. Really enjoyed it. I had people that were within the police that were really, really friendly, and now I know why. All right, because I think they knew who I might be in all of this. And there was a couple of people in specifically. Anyway, 2006 is when key things started to happen in all of this. The Da Vinci Code movie was released, which relates to a bloodline of Christ, and it links in with pyramids, which you can see on the hat here of Aleister Crowley. You had Apocalypso, the movie, was released as well that year, and also The Devil Wears Prada, which becomes very relevant in all of this. Anyway, in 2007, there was a staged introduction. I believe it was staged to my wife and to Exbourne Manor, which is the property that obviously all of my evidence stems from later in 2022. And this was staged by somebody called Jock Condon and our sergeant, who was called Benjamin Pope, who we actually mention a little bit later in the evidence. And that was a staged introduction to my wife, or later to be wife, and to my Exbourne Manor. Now it's interesting actually, because I've only been with, in I suppose intimate relationships with 5 women in my entire life. So and something said to me earlier in my life, the 5th woman I'm going to be with is going to be important. Turned out that was Lisa, who I was introduced to. Anyway, 2007, I was introduced. Exbourne Manor then was created, okay, as a company. Madeleine McCann went missing, and loads of other things happened in 2007. 2008, my father treated us. When I moved down in 2006, because I rented initially, my father then became linked to the 2 companies, okay, that later connected to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. All right, so my dad would have been involved in whatever was happening with me because of who I am, and probably involved in the staging of my relationship with my wife, because I moved down in 2006. I rented for a year, and then the introduction occurred in 2007. And of course, my dad had started this company in 2006, and it happens to be the exact same 2 companies that Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited started with in 2007. Okay, that I had no involvement in choosing those companies. I'm not on the incorporation document. I actually became a director in 2009. So 2008, my father treated us to a trip to Paris, and we ended up going to the Louvre, which is featured in the Da Vinci Code movie, okay, which has a pyramid, a big pyramid coming down from the ceiling and a small pyramid coming from the bottom. And obviously I had no idea that it was anything to do with the movie at that point. Don't think I'd even seen the Da Vinci Code. I can't remember. Anyway, 2008, same year, you had the movie called The Ninth Circle, which came out, which later connects to my dream, okay, and evidence that I was acquiring after that dream. Now, that could not have been possible, I believe, unless they were controlling. Now, I do believe, with the evidence I'm going to be showing you, I believe you are all potentially compromised by the sound waves that they're using on Earth. But for whatever reason, I think my evidence proved that I am not, for whatever reason, corrupted by the sound waves, and also how that leads into my dreams. Because what they would have had to have done is control time, matter, and my mind. Now, I don't believe that's possible, okay? And if it is, then you're talking the creator. So I'm going to say that's the creator, all right? Now, I would absolutely 100% be there now arresting solicitors. Nobody else in the world is doing anything about this and calling for the right thing. So I suspect that's because of who I am in all of this, who all of the evidence suggests I am. 2009, I became a director of Exbourne Manor, and within 2 weeks, or around 2 weeks, the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales was incorporated on Companies House, which ends up linking to my childhood via the people around me in my life immediately. Okay, immediately. That year, 2009, is also when the Iranian Green Movement happened. You also had the second Da Vinci Code movie, which was Angels and Demons, which links to CERN and the Hadron Collider, and the Vatican, which is where all of my evidence ends up converging on now, along with several other important key topics. Anyway, just going back a little bit, you have the evidence from 1973, before I was even born, which appears to relate Soylent Green to me, okay, which was an innocent police officer that was uncovering a dystopian future involving corrupt organizations potentially putting the remains of humans into the food chain. So that was before I was even born. Okay, that's the same year that the World Trade Center disaster, or the World Trade Center building, was finished in being completed. Okay, and then this led into other evidence that tied back into my dad's favorite movie that came out that year called Papillon, with evidence that we're going to be talking about later, how that becomes relevant again. I'm just going to recap on that. So as I then left the police in 2018 voluntarily, because not realizing it was connected to this, and prior to that, in 2016, 2 years earlier, is when the third movie came out with the Da Vinci Code series, which now they skipped a movie, which was interesting, and which becomes very relevant back to me again, called The Lost Symbol, which I've shown the evidence on that. I'm probably going to go through that again another time, because it ties into the Kryptos sculpture at the CIA building in America, and it makes absolutely mind-blowing research and evidence, and how that seems to be linking in with me in all of this. Anyway, 2016, so where are we? That same year is when the next movie came out, called Inferno. Okay, and Inferno makes a reference to the CERN, okay, via the ninth circle of hell, and the ninth circles, and the Dante's Inferno. And that same year, in 2016, the Pizzagate scandal was started to be exposed, and in August that year there was a ritual, it seems, taking place at CERN by the Shiva statue, which represents creation and destruction, which then links back into what we're going to be talking about from 2012, when it appears they were trying to create the end of creation using that technology to tie in with the end of the Mayan calendar, which was later in that year. And you had the meeting between Jeffrey Epstein, Stephen Hawking, and CERN scientists on the 19th of April 2012, and CERN claims to have discovered the Higgs boson, a God particle, on the 4th of July that year. And the end of the Mayan calendar was in December 2012. Anyway, in April that year, you also had David Beckham was involved in two, in the same month, David Beckham was involved in two advertisements for Burger King, and David Beckham links to my school very, very quickly. And via my former school, you have the link immediately into the Knights Templar location, a 13th century Knights Templar building. You also have a link to Olympic Games companies from my school, a Masonic building. You have a reverend there, which creates connections into obviously the religious establishments in all of this. And then you then have a connection to other people around me via Home Starts, through the educational system, which makes the connection back to the Knights Templar via people I was growing up with. Anyway, so this was in 2016. And then, as I said, in 2018, I left the police voluntarily. And that year is when Gordon Bowden supposedly came out and went and sat in a conference and started exposing, or I think he started a bit earlier, but this is when he was in a meeting, in a conference, which becomes relevant to me. And that conference was in relation to the International Courts of Natural Justice, or something similar, that Sasha Stone had set up. And Sasha Stone connects into the research or information I've acquired in relation to black nobility families, linking in with the Vatican, and also he connects into what appears to be via who I now think is the newest high priest of the Church of Satan, Peter Gilmore, who was positioned in 2001. after the World Trade Center disaster, or the same year as the World Trade Center disaster. So I left the police, and then in 2000 and that was 2018. Now that meeting. Okay, the person sat next to Gordon Bowden when he was trying to expose this non-verification element of the Companies House fraud was a lady called Michelle Young. And I was put in contact with Michelle Young in, I think it was 2023 or 4. And she, I believe, is connected via the Companies House records straight to the office that I was part of in Bournemouth later, where I was working earlier, where I was working when I became an acting police sergeant. I passed my sergeant's exams in around 2008, straight to the office. Now, that office also connects via Valentine Fleming, and the Iona End of the World prophecy also links to that office, okay, via the Flemings, and not the Flemings that were initiated or involved in the removal of me from Exwell Manor at a later date. Anyway, Michelle Young was in contact with me for a few times, didn't tell me, okay, that she had been sat next to Gordon Bowden. That was me that identified it in that meeting. And she turned around and told me that he had been unalived, and tried, it seems, to make me believe that my life may be taken. Now, later on, as I started exposing all of this, there were many incidents where they tried to make me believe that my life was going to be taken, but they've never actually done it. And this, I believe, was a test to determine who I may be in all of this. Anyway, 2022 is when I've probably missed loads. I'm just going to get to some of the key stuff. On the 5th of July 2022, an experiment appears to have taken place at the Large Hadron Collider in CERN, the first time since 3 years, which would take you back to July 2019. Which is when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, and obviously on the lead up to the COVID situation or deception. The next day, the Georgia Guidestones were damaged and removed, which represented an upcoming man-made apocalyptic event, and they were actually erected, according to the research, in 1980, 3 years after I was born. There's a load of other stuff that I could say about when I was born, but we'll just try and keep to the evidence that I'm going to be showing tonight. And it was 2 days after that I approached Anthony Roberts, asking to look at the bank documents, and he became angry at me, and that triggered my whole investigation, which led to where we are now in all of this. So anyway, there's loads more stuff, and eventually, from that point, I then acquired, through a snowball of an investigation, snowball effect of an investigation, the world's most sinister, it seems, and by far the largest financial crime ever imaginable, multi trillions of pounds around the world, but also how they had been linking that money into all of the world's problems, even, it seems, natural disasters, and into the ability to facilitate the laundering of the money through international conflicts, international terrorism, the crimes against children, international drug trafficking, the blood of the children, all tying in with the Vatican. And we're going to see how this all ties in with Aleister Crowley as we go. I'm a bit mindful of spending too long summary of this, but I'm just trying to give everyone a bit of a build up to this. Now, I've got probably at least 50 police reports completely unanswered. I've got multiple emails to 650 members of Parliament that are completely unanswered, and more recently some emails to less numbers of that, but key individuals in all of this that are completely unanswered. So obviously what I'm presenting is the key to a new earth, okay, in one way or another. And I think that's very likely the key of David mentioned in the scripture, through me and through that evidence. And therefore it has the ability to, I believe, bring heaven on earth, or lead to a judgment upon humanity if people don't wake up and realize what's going on and actually use their moral conscience and their eyes and their hands to do the right thing in this and act practically whilst you still can. And that's both sides. So that's those involved in this, and that's those who are innocent in this. But with the evidence I'm going to be talking about tonight, it's very likely that everybody can potentially be forgiven, if you like, at least spiritually, and potentially to some extent even here on Earth, because we're going to be talking about how I think, and we're going to be showing some evidence how sound waves and sound frequencies have potentially given the ability to control the entire world, okay, through those frequencies used through the control of the sound. Right, so let me get me on the screen so you can tell it's me. I'm very, very tired. I'm going to be doing my best tonight, all right? I'm so tired, so forgive me if I don't do things as well as I could be in this. Look at the evidence. And there might be a few other things I need to. Now I can't see the comments, okay, when I'm doing this, so you're going to have to forgive me. And in the last couple of days, I've shown evidence tying into the Church of Satan and sounds, okay, as in music companies and also noiseless connections. Literally, they've got companies called noiseless, which I believe is the evidence confirming or at least supporting that they have had the ability through sounds that you cannot consciously hear, but you subconsciously take it in to manipulate you, exploit you, plant things into your mind, suppress you to the point where you can't wake up, and you're so controlled by fear and anxiety that you won't go and do arrests, or you won't, do the right thing that needs to be done in all of this, which is what I've been trying to say in my strategy. It doesn't look like I've activated the links, actually. That's annoying. Can I do it from here? Oh yeah, I should be able to. Oh. Is that going to let me do that? Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about, first of all, if I can find it. Where's it gone now? Hold on, bear with me. If you're just joining us, I'm showing probably the most important evidence in 4 years of what I've been doing, and you're going to see why. And we're going to build up to what the critical evidence is, because I need to sort of show that build up to how the black magic element ties into this. Why is that not allowing me to search that? Oh, it's not allowing me to search whilst I'm on the live, and I can't activate the links. Oh, that's really annoying. Don't think I can. Oh, here we are. Yeah, but I can't. It won't allow me to search whilst I'm on the live. Hold on, let's try again. Oh, now it is. No, it won't allow me to. Oh, unless I'm spelling it wrong. I think I'm spelling it wrong. Sorry. Yeah, I'm being an idiot. Right, now go back, activate the links. There we go. So I'm just going to read this to you. And there are spelling mistakes. I've rushed to do this today. I think it's important that I get it out. So forgive me for any of the little spelling mistakes. But research shows that Zena Shrek, okay, was born in 1963 and is known professionally by her mononymous artist name of Zena. She is a Berlin-based American visual and musical artist. This is important. She's involved in the musical industry. Author and spiritual leader of the Sethian Liberation Movement, or SLM, which she founded in 2002, the year after Peter Gilmore had been positioned as the high priest of the Church of Satan and after the World Trade Center disaster. Company's House search shows that ZZ Limited had been incorporated as Zena Shah Limited on the 31st of March 2022, which is the same day that Deborah Fleming retired as an NHS CEO to become involved in Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. Now, she is the daughter, which I'm going to say in a minute. I don't think it sends it here unless it's further up. No. Is the daughter of the founder of the Church of Satan in 1966. Okay. So this company, as I said, started on exactly the same day that Deborah Fleming, who was the person initiating my removal from Exbourne Manor in 2023, resigned from as a CEO of the NHS, okay, in Hampshire, Isle of Wight, Dorset, and became involved in my investigations of Exbourne Manor. Its name was changed on the 12th of April 2022, less than 2 weeks later, and again on the 10th of April 2026, when the word Zena was removed, as I continued exposing the fraud and the links to the Church of Satan. The filing history shows that the details were changed at the same time for this person, potentially changing, obviously, the name to try and hide the connections. The filing history shows that, as I said, was changed, and John McLaughlin is one of 2 people in the people record. I'm just going to show you this quickly. So here's Studio ZZ. You can see at the bottom there, originally called Zena Shah. Now this Shah, I believe, and I've just realised, is, I think, going to become very relevant, and how that links into Russia and also into China and also Iran later. And I'm going to show you research of that later. So you can see it was incorporated 31st of March, the exact same day that she resigned, Deborah Fleming. Try not to spend too long explaining this, because otherwise I'm going to be here for a very long time, because there's a lot of evidence, but I think it's important that you understand it. So I'm just going to have to battle through this. And you can see it was changed not long afterwards on the 12th of April. And then again, very recently, when they realised, I am getting to the truth in all of this. And they removed the name Sheena. You can see it's there, Heart Zena. And then they changed it to, as you can see there, Studio ZZ. Now, I'm not going to verify everything, because I will literally be here for probably half a day. So I'm just going to do the odd bit every now and then. A separate search shows that many variations of John McLaughlin, who is the name that's in there, there's loads and loads of entries, including one with no date of birth connected to RWM Food. I'll just show you his name in here, because this bit does become relevant. And now it's not loading up again. Why is that? There we go. On the people record, you can see the John McLaughlin there. Okay, just to confirm, there's 2 directors. So this record for John McLaughlin connects to RWM Food Group Holdings Limited, that incorporated in February 2007, 3 months before Madeleine McCann went missing, and the same year that Export Manor Freehold Limited was incorporated. It dissolved in July 2021 after I'd moved back to Export Manor Freehold Limited and DLA Pipe document. This makes an immediate important link to the centralised criminal network via Freshfields. To the Royals, this is immediately to the Royals, to the BBC, to the death of Jill Dando, to the Vatican, to the Freemasons, to the main currency producer, to the Sweeney Todd Group, to vampirism, and much, much more. Now, I'm not going to go into that because you need the document to verify all of that, but I will just show you the first bit. So you can see that you've got the DLA Piper connection. So you can see the same name, John McLaughlin, no date of birth, connected. And they were appointed on the 9th of October. I didn't notice that before. That's literally, oh, I think I did mention it actually. That's not long before Jimmy Sample's death. And you can see RWM. You can see it started in February 2007. And I think you'll see, is it in the people record DLA as well? No. Or is it? Hold on. Save me going into the incorporation document. No. So if you go and if you look at Field Fisher and click on all of its as the contract as a solicitor for the BBC, and they link to Mishcon Dereya, which means the Dereyas, okay, and that means Export Manor Freehold Limited, and they're also linked to the main currency producer as well, De La Rue, then you, from the research, then I've established that it connects to the vampirism and to the research of Sweeney Todd, and they've set up a Sweeney Todd Group, okay, which links to the centralisation of the whole legal system, which connects to the paedophile information exchange and the blood of the children. Graham Keith connects this company to 73 companies, with them having an address, with them having 73 companies, with many of them having an addresses near to Exbourne Manor, where my investigation began. This includes Harrow House International College Swanage Limited. That was in a company I picked randomly, not consciously realising it was the exact company I'd previously researched that links to the research of Robert Maxwell and the World Information Control via its original name of ILSC. And that links to the research of an organization called Liechtenstein, which is a German company or something similar to Liechtenstein, that was originally incorporated in 1856, I believe, which is the same year that the Baphomet started to be used by the Church of Satan. Okay, and that German company linked to the control of the information, tying in with Robert Maxwell, and Robert Maxwell links to the Association of Chief Police Officers of the United Kingdom, which connects to the Doomsday Cult and Julian Assange. And so does Deborah Fleming, and so does my wife's father, and so does all three of my families, okay, to the Doomsday Cult, to David Icke, to Julian Assange, to Donald Trump, to Ghislaine Maxwell, to Jeffrey Epstein, to David Icke. Stephen A. Barrow connects the company to 15 companies, including, where were we? Sorry. I think I missed a bit there. So it was a company, but consciously realizing, no, I mentioned that, Rob Maxwell. Stephen A. Barrow connects the company to 15 companies, including Trees for Brazil Limited, that had been incorporated in November 2007, the same year as Expool Manor Freehold Limited, and has an address of 5 Alum Chine Road, Westbourne, Bournemouth, right near my wife's apparent grandfather's church that links to Deborah Fleming, where I acquired my ring. And those that have been following my evidence will know that my ring links to the Vatican. It links to the 13th bloodline of the Illuminati, which has the blood of apparently Jesus Christ, or whatever Jesus' real name was, and the Lucifer, his brother. My ring also links to a document at the Vatican tying in with the same time as the conflict between the modernization of the Vatican and trying to maintain the traditional church, and therefore a conflict between moral conscience and leading the world into a future of technology such as Collider and artificial intelligence, which will ultimately destroy all of creation, I believe. Now, I'm not going to go into all of this. You can verify it when you get the document. I'm just going to talk through some of this, as I've said, because I'm going to be here for a very long time otherwise. I don't know whether to just show you that bit. Trouble is, I'm a bit mindful of the time. Well, you can research it anyway. Hopefully, any of you that's on a second device, if you've got one in front of you, please go and verify the evidence as we're going through this, if you can. The bits that I'm not verifying, okay? Brazil Bar Limited had already been identified. So we have this Brazil company, okay, via this company that connects to the control of the information, Robert Maxwell and the Doomsday Cult. Brazil Bar Limited has been identified in the research of Kenneth Noy, and directly to the road where Expool Manor is located, which is Christchurch Road in Bournemouth, and was regarding an Amazon rainforest scam, an article that I identified via Kenneth Noy's family, linking in with that, and it went straight to the road in Expool Manor, where Expool Manor is located, even though Kenneth Noy lives in Kent, or his family live in Kent. So it's another connection between Kent and Dorset, which is 3.5 hours away or thereabouts. Now, I think the whole importance between these two locations, the world importance, is because of the link with the vampirism with Kent, and because of that connection to that with Hampshire, which is right next to Dorset, via the company Portals, which was an organisation which led to the creation of the world's currency production, which was taken over by De La Rue, which in 1995. But Portals was originally founded in Hampshire in 1711, and it then became the currency producer for the Bank of England initially in 1724, and then it was purchased, as I've said, in 1995, 6 years before the World Trade Center disaster, and that was the world's currency producer, okay, for most of, if not all of, the world's currency production. And that was the same year that the Hackler International Advisory Board was incorporated on Companies House, which links back to me, okay, and links to, is on page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales incorporation document, and which dissolved after I exposed it in 2024. Around the same time in the 1800s, as that currency production was really getting going for the world's currency production, you also had the Varney the Vampire production taking place in Kent at Sittingbourne, the world's largest printing company, and that ties into vampirism and into the Sweeney Todd group. It was created, 2 characters were created by Edward Lloyd, and in 1920, an Edward Lloyd married a Fleming. okay, in the 1920s. I believe this created a connection between Lloyd's Bank and the Flemings, and how that was linking with vampirism and leading into the full currency control mechanism using digital scientific progression through the full digital currency control network that they were planning to secure the blood of the innocent through that digital currency control system, and using the currency production initially to get to that point and use the currency to buy the world practically to gain that full system of control that they've got. Now, that, as I said, that was the world's biggest factory. Go and look at the Varney the Vampire, the research, and you will see that is where all vampire stories came from, or most of them, I believe. Go and look at it, and it's almost as if they were telling who they were through that character. They were saying that character was loathing their life, and in the end, Varney the Vampire ends up committing suicide. And they couldn't decide whether to make Varney the Vampire an actual vampire with teeth, and it's the first time that the teeth were mentioned in vampirism, or to make him a human being that was just drinking or involved in the blood of humans. And that, I think, is a significantly important bit of the evidence. And obviously, Sittingbourne, as I've said, it was in Kent, and Kent is where I was born, and that's in fact very, very close to where people very personally connected to me are living, and still living, I believe. So we have this link in. Now, Kenneth Noy connects into the bloodstock trade in a massive way, and all of my evidence shows or supports they are hiding the blood of the innocents and the laundering of the money in relation to that, which the whole system appears to have been set up through the bloodstock trade, which links in with the horse trade. Okay, the horse racing, and also the horse trade in general, which would mean obviously fox hunting. Okay, and this is where I believe the hunting of the children on the estates comes in, how that links in with Yorkshire, which is where the Freemasons first became prominent, as well as the same time, around the same time in Scotland. And fox hunting is where, York is where fox hunting first began, and that is where what's his name, Jimmy Savile, was born, okay, and owned a lot of property. And I think that's very, very relevant in relation to this, because we can look at some connections to Aleister Crowley and Jimmy Savile later, and how that ties in with the sound control through the frequencies, okay, of humanity. A search for SLM, remember this is the acronym for Zena's organization that she started up. This is the acronym, shows that it was incorporated, or a search for SLM shows a company that was incorporated in 2000. Sorry, let me start again. A search for SLM through Google, okay, company sounds through Google, reveals another website showing SLM Recruitment Consultants Limited that had been incorporated in May 2000. I've put it twice there for some reason, and having London Law Secretarial in the information, which is associated to the London Law Agency, meaning a direct link to Keir Starmer via the Death Penalty Project Limited, which we're going to be talking about later, a direct connection to Madeleine's Fund, leaving no stone unturned, meaning Madeleine McCann, to the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, which links to me, and major areas of the criminal network. The company has been removed from Companies House. However, it is on this website, and I'm just going to show this to you. So you can see there, will it let me zoom in? SLM Recruitment. Further down, you can see it was incorporated 8th of May 2000, the year I became a police constable. And you can see actually available to May the 2006. Next accounts due in 2008. I think it's a dissolved company though. Yeah, it is a dissolved company, sorry. So you can see this company, they've obviously removed it. On here you can see, where is it? London Law Secretarial, and that means London Law Agency. Okay, that's practically always comes with the London Law Agency, which makes the connection to Keir Starmer. Zena, okay, remember this is the daughter of the original founder of the Church of Satan which was founded in 1966, which is the same year that the World Trade Center started to be built. And remember, the Soylent Green movie which came out in 1973 before I was even born, which appears to be relating to me, an innocent police officer from 2022, which is the year that I found or started identifying the corruption through my inquiries. That was based on a book that was originally written in 1966, the year of the foundation of the Church of Satan. And that book was based on the year 1999, which is the year of the re-establishment of the Church of Satan after its original founder died within 2 months of Princess Diana in 1997. And within 2 weeks of Princess Diana dying, or it was either 2 weeks of Princess Diana or the founder, Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, is when the Event Horizon movie was released. And that relates to the black hole, and the point of singularity of a black hole is called the Event Horizon, where even light can't escape, according to the research. Now, the main actor in that movie was Lawrence Fishburne. Go and look at it. You'll see that Lawrence Fishburne was a ambassador for UNICEF. And UNICEF was originally founded in 1946, and they're linked to the United Nations, and they were supposedly to help children in times of conflict around the world. Well, it's almost guaranteed now from the evidence that they were actually set up to deliberately target children in times of conflict, and all of those 3 World War deceptions and those conflicts were deliberately set up with both sides being controlled to actually target children through those conflicts in relation to their blood and organ harvesting and everything I'm talking about. Xena was raised with the Church of Satan and came to international prominence in early life as the organization's first spokesperson, defending the church during the 1980s. She resigned in her position in 1990, severed ties from her father, and renounced Levian Satanism. Her religious path eventually led to teaching Tibetan Tantric Buddhism. And we're going to come to when she became a spokesman later. It's pretty mind-blowing, and how a whole school of children were claiming that they were being abused within a school. Literally over 300 pupils were claiming they were being abused at the same time, not all at the same time, but in the same investigation in America. All right, massive. So I wish I'd have found this out earlier. I'm kicking myself for not knowing about this evidence later, because it is, as I've said, the most important evidence in the world, and the most important evidence that I've done. Xena was born in San Francisco in 1963, as we said, to Anton LaVey and Diane Hegarty, both founders of the Church of Satan. In 1985, Xena became the high priestess of the Church of Satan and remained its spokesperson until 1990. So 1985 is when Swift Incorporations Limited, was incorporated, and connects directly to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, which was later created, Swift Incorporations Limited, and major areas of the centralized criminal network. Xena appears identical to Taylor Swift in some pictures, and the Swift name is significant to the fraud due to it being the name of the international transaction system used in the international government fraud. And guess when that was started to be used? 1973, the year that Soylent Green came out, the year that the World Trade Center was completed in its construction, the year of Papillon, the movie, my dad's favorite movie, was also released. And MGM was involved in Soylent Green. MGM links to Atlas and the first intercontinental ballistic nuclear missile, or atomic missile, linking to America. That then ties in with the Operation Paperclip and the Nazi regime, which ties in with Hitler, Disney, the Flemings, Werner von Braun, all tying in with that. Atlas is also the name of the experiment that took place at CERN in 2012 that I told you about earlier. And Atlas Holdings, is the name of the company that acquired the currency producer De La Rue in July 2025, as it was exposed in the international government fraud, the first time that the De La Rue, the currency producer, came off of the London Stock Exchange since 1947, which is the year the doomsday clock began. All right, this is all very, very relevant. And in 1947 becomes important with various other things such as the creation. I think it was the NHS was created then, or 1948. You had the creation of the Tavistock Institute, which was then integrated into the NHS. Okay, and that's a mind control program, which ties into what we're talking about here, or will be a bit later. And also 1948, the year afterwards, is when the Association of Chief Police Officers of the United Kingdom was incorporated, or founded, sorry. And that links to me personally via Paul Condon, who was part of the organisation that was later set up, tying to that. And Jock Condon was the one that introduced me to my wife in 2007. He was also Paul Condon was the Chief Constable of Kent when I was growing up in Kent when I was younger, before he became the Metropolitan Chief Commissioner. What else was I going to say about that? 1948 is when the Israel-Arab War began, and that was fomented going back to 1917, which is the Balfour Declaration involving the Rothschilds. That's when it started to foment the Israel deception in all of this, okay, which obviously ties in with the Three World War deception going back to 1970 and or 1971, shall we say. But the year before that was the infiltration of the Vatican, where they were trying to modernize the church to remove moral conscience, it seems. And I think they were planning on using me to facilitate potentially the destruction of Christianity. And now it's very obvious they're trying to make me believe that the Creator is within us. Okay, well, that can't be the case, because then what we're saying is we created the earth, the trees, etc. Now, that's very dangerous, and I believe they're trying to get me to fall into that trap, because then it will lead to a sinful earth, okay? Because if we start believing we are the gods, then that means we are likely to drift into sin again and get back straight into this situation that we're in now, because you have to believe, I believe we have to believe that there are consequences outside of us to if we start slipping into sin. And that's not a case of being boring, controlling us. You can still do most of the things in life that you want to, but it keeps us on that narrow path of righteousness as best as we can, which actually protects you from slipping into sin and feeling guilt, which would consume you and destroy you, but also protecting others from you. It's an amazing element of protection through rationality. If rationality is maintained in the human mind, it's much easier to walk that narrow path, you see. And their whole system is set up to remove the rationality and therefore remove the moral conscience and separate you from the Creator and lead into a falsified prophetic conclusion. And this is all now tying in to satanic connections, but we're also going to see some connections going back even deeper than that in all of this, and the real, it seems, the real sort of origin, if you like, of where we are in this. So let's have a look at the images of, let me just read the rest of this. Where did we get to? Due to it being the name of the International Transaction System, that started in 1973, and Swift Incorporated Limited, as well as it being the name of the asteroid in the Derren Brown Apocalypse Deception from 2012. Okay, he did a show called Apocalypse, which, remember, that was the same year as the end of the Mayan calendar, the same year that CERN claims to have discovered the Higgs boson or God particle. And Derren Brown links immediately into government organizations. He links to Reform. He links to I can't remember the name of the company, but it's a democratic organization. He also links to the College of Policing. Okay, in 2012 was when the College of Policing began, and it's also when the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners began as well. Now, I suspect this is because they failed to do what they wanted to do with the Collider technology, to time it with the end of the Mayan calendar that year, and they needed to funnel more money through this fraud into that technology to try and fulfill their potential end of creation agenda in relation to the black hole. And if we just go back to 1971, which is when the World Economic Forum began, this is when Stephen Hawking came out with the Hawking's radiation theory, which links to black holes, okay? And he had studied the expansion of the universe, so the creation of the universe, and he was trying to get CERN to create a black hole, which would in effect create the destruction through the point of a singularity via that technology. Now, I don't believe they're going to succeed in being able to end all of creation. I think there is a very strong risk if people do not do the right thing, they're going to lead us now into a judgment tribulation period on Earth using earthquakes and tsunamis. I'm hoping I can stop that, but I can't rely, you can't just rely on me to stop this alone, no matter who I am in this. All right, we need to work collectively using my evidence, using me to help and guide humanity into a new system and to actually prevent all of this from happening. And because of the sound control that I'm talking about here, I don't believe that tribulation event is meant to happen, even if some of those people here on earth do believe that, because to bring a judgment upon all of creation or all of humanity, shall we say, would not be a just judgment. Because remember, as I've said, the system they have, including through now it seems the frequencies of the sound has caused people to separate from their rationality, separate from moral conscience, and therefore separate from the creator and slip into a sinful world. I don't believe it's fair to judge people or to create an event of an end of life judgment, if you like, or an end of humanity judgment, or even an end of creation judgment, because of this evidence now being acquired. So I do not believe it is meant to happen, and I do not believe you can create that in a and actually say that it is a creator held event, because of the system goes against creator that they've set up. You see, so everything they've done goes against moral conscience, goes against the creator. So therefore, even if they believe they're working on behalf of the creator, they are not, because we know that moral conscience came to us for some reason in a rational state of mind. And most people, pretty much everyone, if they are not under the influence of drugs, alcohol, tired, stressed, depressed, whatever, working too hard, poisoned by earth, water, by the earth through the food, the water or air, etc., we will generally, nobody wants to be stolen from, do they? No matter what someone's skin color is, no matter what their faith is. So they generally don't steal from somebody, all right, and they don't generally harm other people. They have set up and they are behind, through this system of crime and this criminal network, most of the world's problems. Anyway, this asteroid from this apocalypse thing that Darren Brown was involved in was called Swift. And that information was identified after being prompted by an associate of Sasha Stone. Okay, so a friend, claiming to be a friend of Sasha Stone, asked me to look at this apocalypse program by Darren Brown. I'd never heard of it. I might have done, but I forgot about it. I'd never seen it. So I ended up watching it. I then identified the asteroid was called Swift. That then prompted me to research Darren Brown and find what I've just told you and much, much more. I actually believe the asteroid hitting the Earth is a lie. I believe that just dinosaurs is a lie. I believe what they've told us about space and landing on the moon is a lie. It is all deception, everybody. Now Sasha Stone, is connected to somebody who I believe is a double role being used as the high priest of the Church of Satan, Peter Gilmore, and John Cousins, who was a mayor of Glastonbury at the time of my initial inquiries. He then stopped being the mayor, I think, in 2022, which is when I was starting to find out about the fraud. And that led through the Company's House records from Glastonbury and via him to the blood of the tortured children. And he is the spitting image of the high priest of the Church of Satan. Anyway, a search for Xena. Let me just show you the images of... I'm going to show you that. Bear with me. Hopefully I can... Where's my images? So here, according to the research, here is a picture on the left of Xena, i.e. The original founder of the Church of Satan. Obviously a bit younger, I would have thought. And on the right is Taylor Swift. Very, very similar. I'm not saying they're definitely the same people, but I think it's very likely going to be the case. Particularly because you've got the high priest of the Church of Satan. Okay, looks identical to John Cousins and the information I've just told you about. And because of the evidence I'm going to be showing you later. Now, on the left, Xena became, as we said, the high priest of the Church of Satan in 1985. A search for Xena links to Swift Incorporations. I haven't worded this very well. What that should say is a search for Xena. Xena link. Oh no, that's fine. A Xena links to Swift incorporations through Google reveals Xena Solutions Limited that had been incorporated in 2004 and dissolved in 2013 after CERN claims to have discovered the God particle. Remember, this is the name that the daughter of the founder of the Church of Satan uses, Xena. Okay. Dissolved in 2013 after CERN claimed the People record shows Swift Incorporations Limited. This is mind-blowing, everybody. It has a registered address of Chatham Maritime, Chatham, Kent, which with a significant link to Ian Fleming, Charles Dickens, and to me. So I'm going to show you this because this is very, very important. So you can see Xena Solutions. You can see Chatham Maritime. This also links with Portsmouth because Charles Dickens was originally born in Portsmouth, where you have the Ian Fleming linked connected naval base there, which means links to the Flemings, obviously. And then when he was around 5, I think he moved to Chatham, which is where I was born. And he actually ended up working, because his father worked at the naval base in Portsmouth. He ended up, this is Charles Dickens, he then worked at Chatham Dockyards, which is there. And this also connects immediately into now what I believe was a staged introduction to my first girlfriend, okay, at the shopping centre in Maidstone that I was working at, Rachel Baggerly. Hopefully Rachel will be seeing this. And it links to this location via her father. So they've been watching me all of my life. Now, there's only one reason they would have been watching me all of my life, and that's because I'm someone significant in this. Remember, I didn't know about the fraud back in when I was working in Kent, and when I was a security guard, I had no idea about the fraud. If you look in the People record, we'll just show you Swift Incorporations. There you go. Which means Exball Manor Freehold Limited. I'll just show you that so that you can confirm it if you haven't seen Exball Manor Freehold Limited before. Those of you just joining, we are talking about the most critical evidence on Earth by far. All right, this is by far the most important evidence I've shown, and it's only going to get much bigger as we go through. We're going to be looking at how it ties in with Aleister Crowley, and how it links into what I believe is now going to be the mind control using sound and them hiding it as black magic and saying it is black magic. Exball Manor and how that links in with the blood of the children. Which means you are very likely all compromised by it. And it appears as though I'm the only one potentially in the world that is not compromised by this. Because I'm the only one that's willing to go and arrest the solicitors. Nobody else in the world is doing it. Now, there's got to be a reason for that. It's got to be a reason. It's got to be because I'm going to be somebody relevant in this. Now, you can see here, Swift Incorporations Limited was started, Exball Manor Freehold Limited was incorporated in 23rd of August 2007. And I'm just going to show you in the People record my name. I don't know if Swift Incorporations is in the People record, but there you can see Deborah Fleming. And she was involved in initiating my removal. You can see Anthony Roberts, who becomes relevant to the evidence later. He worked for AFC Bournemouth, which linked to the Craze and a building immediately to the Craze via a building in the New Forest, and that then ties in to Aleister Crowley almost immediately. I'm going to show you that later. Diana Betts, okay, did work as a phlebotomist for the NHS, in other words, the taking of blood. And you can see she then resigned in July 2011. That's between the Christchurch earthquake and Jimmy Savile dying, and she then became a director back again in the company. Stephen Owens links to the Russian government via my research, and that becomes very, very relevant later. You're going to see the Russian government connections to Aleister Crowley, linking in with the sound as well, frequencies. And there you saw Swift Incorporations there, just to confirm the link there. And at the bottom, you'll see my name. Now, they've removed what I did for a living, which was they put police sergeant, because I was an acting police sergeant, but they thought, oh dear, that's giving him too much credibility. Let's remove it. So they've removed that in the last few months. You can see I was born in 1977, and I didn't become a director until the 13th of September 2009. And then it was the 29th of September that the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales was incorporated. Now, I'm just going to show this because it becomes relevant later, and very relevant, actually. So you can see the new managing agent who's completely corrupted by the criminal network. Okay, you've got Property Solutions Southern Limited, and this is Paul Mallory. He needs to be arrested. They all need to be arrested. Well, they don't need to be harmed. We just need them to question. I suspect a lot of them could be being controlled, manipulated by sound. This now, the evidence I'm showing you today possibly explains why they are all compromised, and why all of you aren't doing anything, and why many people aren't waking up, because I think the cell towers are linking in with the sound frequencies. And it's very possible they were trying to tweak the technology using the frequencies, and it has actually harmed people, but also potentially deliberately harmed to get them to go into the hospitals, but harm them to an extent where they're harmed too much that they've had to release then a fake virus at the same time. And this is why I think you've got the viruses being publicized over the last 150 years or so, tying in with the release of RF frequencies, which is radio frequencies, all right? Radar, which also is sound, 1G technology, I believe, through the claiming that it's internet, using that also to emit the sounds via the devices, via the cell towers, we have to consider, and via the technology in people's homes. And more recently, I've shown the evidence of the devices in people's homes are compromised by NATO, by the sex industry, through the listening devices, okay, linked into China, tying in with the United Nations. The United Nations links to UNICEF, which obviously, as I've told you, links to the crimes against the children and the blood in all of this. Anyway, well, I'm going to go into it, actually. I was thinking I might be able to show you it from here, but I can't, can I? I've got to go. So I'm just going to show you their incorporation document because it becomes relevant later. Property Solutions, I moved that back up there. Southern. Now, of course, they might not know they're being controlled. So me giving this evidence to them, they're going to be thinking, wow, you know, this could be what is going to help everybody. But obviously, I can't get to enough people. That's the problem. I've got 131 people out of 8 billion. This is where those of you that listen to this, you 131 people, whether you're compromised by this or not, you now become probably the most important people on earth now, okay? To actually get this evidence out to people, let people know who I potentially am, get the document out to everyone when I send it out. You become incredibly important now. So here they are. This is it here. It was incorporated in June 2007. You can see Property Solutions Southern. And on the incorporation document, let me just show you that. Now, many people have died because of this, you know, even if it's those that have committed suicide. But, you know, the evidence, because of the pressure of the system and the drugs and the alcohol that they're behind, and that because they're behind causing the mental health issues through this, and also they're behind the rehabilitation. So there's no motive to actually resolve the issue, because obviously they are potentially being controlled, but also, you know, if there's no problems, then how do they continue to defraud you in relation to getting more money from you, and through tax and other financial institutions in relation to the blood and the drug addictions, etc., that they're probably also involved in. So you've got at UK companies here, okay, at UK PLC companies. That becomes relevant later. At UK PLC. Siegfried Willis Fries connects Xena Solutions that we were looking at earlier to 12 Glebe Place Limited. That is Michael John Hope of 84 Temple Chambers, Temple Avenue. The London Law Agency, again, on its incorporation document, which means it links back to SLM that we were looking at earlier, making the link to Keir Starmer via the Death Penalty Project Limited, Madeline's Fund again, P. Diddy, because they use Bates, Wells and Braithwaite. That's on the incorporation document. And I find a link straight to Bates, Wells and Braithwaite later to the research of Aleister Crowley. Okay, P. Diddy, My Dream, linking to the control panel of the Large Hadron Collider, and much more as shown elsewhere. Sir Andrew William McAlpine is in the People Record and connects 12 Glebe Place to 13 companies, including McAlpine Companies, Silverstone, that should say, Motorsport Companies, the British Racing Club Limited, that had been incorporated in 1931, has an address of Silverstone Circuit, and it has a forged register. Sir Robert McAlpine Limited is a British and civil engineering company based in Kings Langley, England. It carries out engineering and construction in the infrastructure, heritage, commercial, arena and stadiums, healthcare, education and nuclear sectors. Nuclear as well, everybody. Some of its notable projects are Glenfinnan Viaduct, which was completed in 1901, the same year that Queen Victoria died on the Isle of Wight, which becomes relevant to all of this and is linked. And the linked White House in Washington was called this that year. From that year, it's used in the first Harry Potter movie, okay, the Glenfinnan Viaduct, which then links to J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling, via the Company's House research, connects immediately to Sacha Stone, who I've already told you about earlier, ties into the black nobility family, the blood of the children via John Cousins and the High Priest of the Church of Satan. They also created One Canada Square, which is a very important building, which is Canary Wharf, which was completed in 1991 when my favourite movie, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, came out, the same time that David Icke came out and said the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis. And he is linked to the intelligence agencies, and he connects to all three of my families. And this stood as the tallest building in London until it was surpassed in 2012 by the Shard, the same year that CERN claims to have discovered the God particle and the end of the Mayan calendar, and links to Sherborne in Dorset, to artificial intelligence and the Israel attacks and much more. And that's by the leader of Qatar, who was educated in Sherborne, and Sherborne becomes relevant to my wife's former employee, Charles Sherwin, who was a dentist there in Sherborne, which then links into the Virgin Foundations and major areas of the criminal organisation and the apparent crimes against children. He also links to an island company called, I haven't got it in front of me actually, but it's something like, what is it? Kids Island Limited, Fantasy Kids Island. I can't remember. But anyway, that organisation links into United Nations companies that was started with the same companies as Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. So this facilitates or supports the absolute obvious evidence now they're laundering the money through the fake wars, or the wars that they're creating on both sides in relation to the children, the blood of the children, and how that all ties into Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, everybody. It was also involved in the Millennium Dome, which was completed in 1999, the year of the re-establishment of the Church of Satan, and that's also when Vladimir Putin became the Prime Minister of Russia, which becomes relevant later. And they also it was redeveloped as the O2 Olympic O2 building. They also did the Olympic Stadium for the London 2012 Olympics, which was completed in 2011, the year of the Christchurch earthquake, and when Jimmy Savile died. Shall I verify that, or shall I just move on? I'm just going to move on because we get to some more important stuff than this. Summit at the Shard. Now remember, we just spoke about the Shard building there. Summit at the Shard had been incorporated on the 14th of February 2012, which was 2 months before Epstein's apparent meeting with CERN and Stephen Hawking, which then links back in with the black hole side of things. Yom Tov Jacobs and Formations Direct is on the incorporation document. Yom Tov Jacobs and Formations Direct make important connections throughout the centralized criminal network. This includes in the research on my evidential research document of Home Starts Hampshire, from the Chinese Prime Minister, which is Quang Li, and linking with my former school to the research of Johnny Depp. Now, via that, my former school, there links, as I said earlier, to the Knights Templar location and into the Olympic Games companies, which then links back in with the other building that we just spoken about, and then that links with David Beckham, and that's via my school. Also links into the research of Johnny Depp via the Sweeney Todd research, to serial killers Peter Sutcliffe and Rose West, to KM Solutions UK Limited, from the research of the infiltration of the royals, to the leadership of Iran, which links obviously with the deception of the Iranian conflict, deception with what's going on at the moment, the suspect of the London Bridge terror attack, which was in 2019, I think, 17, to the Evergreen Company in the research of the Hillsborough disaster. The Hillsborough disaster was in 1989 when the World Wide Web was created for CERN. They then only released key bits of the investigation of that after tried to create a black hole using the CERN collider in September 2012. Okay, that's when they came out with the information now about the investigation of the of the Hillsborough disaster, and they also that year created a company which was criminal, and I think that links straight to the London Law Agency, if I remember correctly, which gives the ability to launder the money through it. It links to the research of the Rapid Response, who were the ones that threatened to take my van and my home, and they link into the Olympic Games companies as well via the research. They may be being controlled, and I'm sure at least one of them is going to be listening to this. It links to the 3I Atlas comet, okay, which was that comet was discovered supposedly in July 2025, which is Adam exposing the international government fraud, continuing to, and it's the same month, as I've said earlier, that the main currency producer, De La Rue, was acquired by Atlas Holdings, okay? Same name, Atlas, okay? And the 3I Atlas comet research links to the prophecy of the popes via the Company's House records and the research they've done. It links to Rishi Sunak. It links to the Metropolitan Police Service, which then links to the drug trafficking network, not as in them stopping it, as them involved. To the cell towers via IX Wireless, which then links quickly to Gerald McCann. It links to the Environmental Protection Agency and the banning of lead paint, which then ties in with the directed energy threat and the sound and the frequency harm that could be caused via the technology they've got in place. To Sarah Ferguson via Lord Michael Ian Grade, and with links to the bloodstock companies, which then is being, as I've said, being used to hide the blood of the children, the money laundered in relation to the blood of the children. To the research of Barbara Emery in the information of the research of the infiltration of the royal families. To International Clinical Virology Centre in the research of Anthony Kidman, who's Nicole Kidman's father. To QCC Global Limited in the research of organ harvesting that I've done. To Flame to film production, leading to a Collider company in the research of Andrew McFarlane, the head of the family courts, giving them the ability to corrupt the family courts to steal the children through the forgery of the family courts, and how they use alcohol and drugs to then manipulate families, exploit them, and take the children from those families. Remember, they're behind the alcohol and the drugs. The head of the family courts, to the research of James Goldsmith. I think that's meant to say David Thompson, actually, so scrap that bit. James Goldsmith is massively implicated, but I think that's meant to say somebody else there. So, which was in the moon launch of April 2026 via Artemis, which then links to Bournemouth Town Centre almost immediately, which is where I was working. Linking to the bloodstock industry again, and it's shown in the research of the Lord of the Rings, which then appears to be making significant reference to my ring and who I may be in all of this. To the research of the Deutsche Bank, which links to Donald Trump and the White House coup. To the research of William M. Blyer regarding the Epstein files. This is all immediate connections from the company linked to that last bit that we were looking at. To the research from Dan Brown leading to the bloodline of Christ. And Dan Brown was the person involved in the books around the Da Vinci Code and ties in with the Kryptos sculpture at the CIA building. Directly to a drug search act, which is, I haven't publicised this. This is thanks to somebody else sending me some information more recently. There was a drug search at a big manor house called where is it? I've lost it now. The Glenliffin Mansion in April 2026. Okay, via that research, it links into that as well, and there's more. To the Shard building, as we mentioned now, as shown elsewhere, there are multiple other connections in relation to it. That's all from that company linking into the Shard. Caroline Sarah Jane Seller connects Summit, this Summit company we were looking at the Shard, to 28 companies, including the following companies. Now, this is critical. So I'm going to actually show you this because it's new evidence and it really does help support all of this. So here's Summit at the Shard. You can see incorporated 2018. I'm just going to show you because I've been speaking about it. It's on the incorporation document, is it? How many people we got in here? 130. That's okay. Still not enough, everybody. You need to get on your devices if you can. We'll have a little break in a minute, and what I advise, 5-10 minute break, and I advise you send messages to everyone. You put notifications on all of your platforms, telling everybody to come onto this live. Right? This isn't about me, but I don't want to be famous. I don't want anything from this, everyone. I'm living in a tent, for my goodness sake. Okay, my life's on the line every single day. They've stolen. I know you don't know this for sure, but I'm telling the truth, everyone. I'm producing a document showing you the truth. and I'm verifying it as we go. You can see Yom Tov here on the incorporation document for it, and further down you'll see Formations Direct. There you go, Formations Direct. And then in the people record, because this becomes very, very relevant now, just to make you realize how sinister this all is, everybody. Don't know which, is it going to be in that? Oh, it's going to be that one. Oh, I haven't even looked at that one. That's going to be, I wonder where Paul Turpin, no, it doesn't, it links to one company. So I can do this from memory, this bit. You can see Caroline Sarah Jane Seller connected to various companies. But the one that jumped out of me is Red Rum Operating. And that's because that's backwards. Many of you will know this. Red Rum is murder backwards. A horse, isn't it? I believe. Okay, remember, horse bloodstock industry. Now, Red Rum was in the movie The Shining as well. That's how that springs to mind. And there's a song, isn't there, where the two twins on the tricycle going through the corridor before the blood floods through there, they're singing the Red Rum side of things. Okay, well, Red Rum, you can see here. Let's go back. Actually, was there anything else on that bit? No. If we go into it, you can see you've got, it was incorporated in 2014, and it's in liquidation. So they are closing the company. You can see it's hotels and similar accommodation. Cannon Street, so it links to the fraud straight away from the address. What was I going to tell you about it? Red Rum Operating Company Limited, murder backwards and used in the Shining movie that had been incorporated in 2014 is shown in the process of liquidation. It has Formations Direct again on its incorporation document. A duplicate record for Caroline Sarah Jane Seller is in the company, and it links, oh yeah, this is critical, and it links to Outward Bound Trust. Outward Bound Trust links directly to Jimmy Savile, okay, and to a statement via a video, which is in my document, of a witness to a child being unalived on the Outward Bound camp, okay, and also sexual abuse against them and another individual on that case. And I've seen a video, it's about with that person saying they were on an Outward Bound camp, confirming that, saying it was linked to Jimmy Savile, not him involved in the murder, but they claim they witnessed a young girl being murdered called Claire. And you can tell through that video, nobody was helping them. All they were interested in doing, and it was, they were in Germany, and they reported this to the police, and all the police were interested in doing is locating the two victims. I don't know if they're still alive, but they showed all the emails. I've seen the video, I've watched the whole thing, showed all the emails between them and the police, and they were not even bothered. And they were trying to tell them, look, we've witnessed a murder, and all they were bothered about were trying to find these two people that were trying to expose what they had witnessed. And I'll show you this in a minute, going into the incorporation document. Now, that also connects to Outward Bound, connects immediately to the main Freemason Lodge, to Donald Trump, to the Royals, to CERN, to an Italian earthquake company, spelled that wrong, to the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini, the head of the Illuminati, which links into the 13th bloodline and me, okay, via my ring. The evidence of Prince Harry and the information that's, and it's pretty overwhelming now, that he may have worn the skin of Madeleine McCann in his shoes, okay, and her fate, and how that links in immediately to Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, my father, the company, his accountant, links very quickly into Harvey Weinstein via the research, the exact same company. Now, if loads, so we're in the so into red. Hold on, where were we? I'm gonna have to remind myself again. Red Rum as Formations Direct, a duplicate record for Caroline Jane. So, oh yes, yeah, so this is another. What are we in? Hold on, let me go back. Sugar, it looks like I might have to confirm. That's the one we were in, isn't it? I think that's the one I was in, wasn't it, a minute ago? Oh no, here we go. Here we go. So I wasn't in Red Rum. So we've got this record. Is this the one? Hold on, how many did it? It's been incorporated 2001. Sarah Jane connects this company to, right, there should be 2 records in here. We've got this one, it might be this one that it's in. Didn't put the number, so it's, if not, it'll be further down. So you might not see Outward Bound in this one. And that will show they've created a duplicate record within the company. But you have got Portsmouth companies, look. This might be the, we're going to talk about though a bit later. Well, let me just check at the top. Yeah, okay. So there's no Outward Bound in that one. We're still within the same company. Okay, we're in Red Rum. I think it's good. So we noticed the name Caroline Sarah Jane Seller. I hope I've got this right. There we go. Caroline Sarah Jane Seller. So a duplicate record. Only 8 companies. And I'll find evidence in all of these now. All of these companies are going to be making connections to the crimes against the children, I suspect. And there we have the Outward Bound Trust that isn't in the other record. Okay. And that is linked to Donald Trump and into the Royals, earthquakes, and into the collider technology, and into, as I've said, the other evidence. She also connects to Seller Properties, Portsmouth, which is, I think we saw that earlier on the other record for her. It was incorporated in 1995 and dissolved on the 12th of September 2025. This is on the lead up to my arrest on the 19th of September 2012. They also connect to Portsmouth Investments. That dissolved the same day, and the Pompey Centre that you saw earlier was incorporated in 1999, the same year as the re-establishment of the Church of Satan, and dissolved on the 12th of July 2022, the day before Anthony Roberts resigned from Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, triggering my investigation. Form 10 companies and Formations Direct is on the incorporation document. What I'm going to do, everybody, I'm going to have a little break for, let's say, 1:45. Try and get as many people on here as you can. I'm going to give you my email addresses now again. Right, go and grab a pen just before I go, and we'll have a 15-minute or so break. I'll have a snack, come back in a minute, come back a bit later, and we'll carry on. So grab a pen if you haven't already got my email. Got 130 people on here. It's not enough, everybody. You need to get more people on here. It's possible people are being kicked out. I don't know. Now, it's at Gary for Freedom. You need to go and tell them to come on to at Gary for Freedom. Send everyone text messages. This is the most critical evidence on earth. You need to put that in the message. Put that on there. Don't worry about what people think of you. I'm showing the evidence to prove it, everybody. Right? So there can be no undermining. There can be no criticism. There can be no mocking you. There can be no taking the mick out of everyone or anything. You know, it's being shown. So please go and tell everyone. Now, my email addresses are GaryTheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. That's Gary with 1 R. The truth sets us free. It absolutely does, everybody. It sets you all free. But you have to follow my strategy to compel the truth, because they're not going to give it out according to everything, okay? And in fact, they're going to lead you into potentially the end of everything if we're not careful. So Gary, the truth sets us free @gmail.com. That's Gary with 1 R. The truth sets us free @gmail.com. I'll give that to you one more time. Gary with 1 R. The truth sets us free @gmail.com. My other email address is GaryTimeForFreedom@proton.me. That's Gary with 1 R. Time for Freedom. It's 4 with the FOR. Gary Timeforfreedom@proton.me. That's Gary Timeforfreedom@proton.me. One more time, because I know what it's like. The first one is Gary, the truth sets us free @gmail.com. The second one is Gary Timeforfreedom@proton.me. And what are we doing is sending out this document proving everything I'm telling you in a verifiable way, like I'm showing you here. You can verify everything. There's a few little spelling mistakes, a couple of little things I need to do, but pretty much all of it is literally there for you to see everything that's really been going on in the world and why we're in this mess, and therefore what you need to do to get yourself out of this and also save and help the children, which must be the priority. Well, creation needs to be the priority. You know, billions of other life forms as well as humans as well. So creation is the priority. Secondary is the children and obviously humanity. as a whole, and then children. Sorry, I suppose. But this is it, everybody. This is the most incredible time to be alive. It's the most incredible time. This is the most important evidence on Earth, by far the most important document on Earth ever. I would think, other than potentially if there was original scripture. Other than that, because we can't trust it, unfortunately. We're going to come back. Let's say 10 to now, because I'd like to have a little bit of a break. So 10 to 11, come back and get as many people on here as you can, please. 10 to 11, come back. Thanks very much. Take care. In fact, what I'll do is I'll stay on the live and I'll just turn my sound and video off, and I'll put a picture of Alistair Crowley on there, just so if I can find it. Let's get a picture of him on there, because this now becomes relevant. See you at 10 to. Hi everyone, thanks very much for that. Really appreciate it. It was quite nice having a bit of a break actually, and longer than I would normally have. So that was really good. Just having some food. So just a bit of a recap. We're looking at the evidence coming in from the daughter of the high priest of the original founder of the Church of Satan, and how this is all linking into the fraud now. It's just going to get bigger. It's a shame actually. It's so late. I'm doing this. I wonder if it'd be better to split it into another. I'm just wondering if trouble is if I don't get it out there and something happens to me. Shouldn't do, but I wonder if I wrap it up a bit earlier tonight and do the rest tomorrow. Well, I'll keep going for a little while anyway, and I'll have a little think as we go. So we were coming in and we were looking at the shard. We looked at how this all ties in, coming in from the research of Xena, who is the name given to the daughter of the original founder of the Church of Satan. We looked at red rum, murder backwards, and how that linked into straight to Jimmy Savile via the Outward Bound Trust, which links to Donald Trump, the royal family, the Freemasons, the main currency producer, the earthquake companies linking in with the CERN side of things. Also the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini, which linked back into me via my ring, and the 13th bloodlines. We'll actually come to a relevant 13 connection later in relation to Taylor Swift as well. So yeah, which I don't think is going to be a coincidence. So anyway, going on, we've got, I don't know if we mentioned this one, Seller Properties. Yeah, we did Portsmouth Limited, dissolved on the 12th of September on the lead up to my arrest. Portsmouth Investments, dissolved the same day. And Pompey Centre, okay, the Pompey Centre that was incorporated in 1999. And that's very connected to Portsmouth, which the other companies are. We also had, and with the fact that this dissolved literally on the 12th of July, which was the day before Anthony Roberts resigned. So I'd approached him on the 8th of July, 2022. He resigned on the 13th, triggering my investigation as Form 10, etc. We've also got, interestingly, Portsmouth Cube. It was incorporated as Stock Shore Limited in 2003, and its name was changed in 2021. And December 2024, when its name was Box Plus 3, which I found quite interesting. Does that relate to King Charles III? I don't know, possibly. Portsmouth Limited has Form 10 companies and formations direct again on its incorporation document. There are many national cube companies, that should say, linking from the directors. I suspect that relates to the Cube of Satan or Saturn. Shard Viewing Gallery Management Limited, they also connect to. It was incorporated in December 2011, which is not long after Jimmy Savile's death, and having Ovalsec Limited of Templeback East, Temple Key, used throughout the fraud, and an address of Jersey on its incorporation document, a tax haven location, allowing the money laundering. And of course, this then ties in with the children apparently being unalived on the islands. Ghislaine Maxwell is connected to an informal island parliamentary group that had been set up by Bob Seeley, who was the former MP for the Isle of Wight, where Deborah Fleming had been the NHS Chief Executive Officer. And remember, on the Isle of Wight, as I said earlier, 1898 is the first mobile wireless communication tower that was set up, and that was by Marconi. And Marconi also did the radio station for the Vatican. I think I mentioned that later anyway. But now also within this company, same company, you have a Helen Xena Khan. Notice the Khan name. That I think is going to become very relevant later. We'll get to that a bit later. Connects to Xena Solutions Limited, to E-Trading Financial Consultants Limited, that have been incorporated in March 2011 between the Christchurch earthquake and the Jimmy Savile dying. And it has a registered address of Apollo House. Now, Apollo makes the connection you were seeing from other research, if you saw it over the last few days, back into references to Donald Trump, where he may believe he's Apollo. There's some information about his property in Manhattan surrounding that on the 66th floor. Bearing in mind we're talking about 1966 here, the foundation of the Church of Satan. Donald Trump's on the 66th floor. And straight from the adrenochrome document, the address for CYM goes straight to Trump Towers. This company, pardon me, so this is Helen Xena Khan connects this Solutions Limited to E-Trading Financial Consultants Limited, that have been incorporated in March 2011, as I said. On its incorporation document, as its registered address, it has Apollo House, and it has Unit 4, Vistra Place, Koi Pond Business Park, Poole, Dorset, which is close to Exbourne Manor and is linked to other research, including that of police officers that are linked to Bournemouth, where I've researched and where I worked. Shall I show you that bit? No, I'm not going to worry about verifying that bit. It gets much more interesting. So, research suggests that Taylor Swift's main business under Taylor Swift Productions, with a website stating Taylor Swift Productions Inc. is Taylor Swift's in-house production company. It was first credited in the DVD/BD version of Speak Now World Tour Live in 2011, the same year that the Christchurch earthquake occurred and that Jimmy Savile supposedly died, and has produced all of Swift's visual media work since 2018, including her music videos and films. The studio's 2023 output, Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour, is the highest grossing concert film of all time. As I've said, 2011 is relevant. I'll just show you that article. One thing we should say is the name Taylor Swift. Taylor, I think, is going to be symbolic of the clothing tailors. I know it's slightly different spelling, but I think they've done this deliberately, how the clothing is linking in with the crimes against the children and the leather goods, which if you've watched my videos over the last couple of days, you'll see how Louis Vuitton, we've got Prada, we've got, who are the other companies I looked at? I can't remember, but some big luxury designer leather goods companies, handbag companies, etc., are now all tying in with this, coming in from that was from the Church of Satan as well, via the research. So it all ties in with this. Here we go. Look, just to confirm here what I was saying, you'll see this is a Taylor Swift's linked website, I believe, Taylor Swift Productions. And you can see the dates there of what I just said. Wikipedia states the following: Taylor Swift Productions Inc. is the in-house visual media production company of the American singer-songwriter Taylor Swift. It was founded in 2008. Okay, interesting. 2008 is when the Ninth Circle movie was created. This is when I went to Paris with my wife, and we went to the Louvre Museum showing the pyramids. And lots of other things happened then as well. And you can see it's just confirmed some of the other stuff, but it also adds here. So it has produced all of its films and documentation since 2018, as well as her music videos starting in 2022. Doesn't say that on her website, does it? But it says it on Wikipedia. So that's interesting, because that is the year that I started exposing the international government fraud. Several management consultants have praised the company's business and marketing strategies as smart and innovative. Other information states this: doing a research. Here are the key entities and companies associated with her business, talking about Taylor Swift. 13, management. Number 13, the letter on my ring, M, 13th letter, links in with the evidence of the Knights Templar and the hidden bloodline, tying in with the pyramid. 13 stars in the American flag. On the back of the $1 bill, the pyramid, loads of 13 numbers on the back of the $1 bill. Okay. The original or the Grand Master of the Knights Templar on Friday the 13th in 1307 was captured, tortured for 7 days, and then murdered, according to the research, on the 14th of that year. This is where I believe Friday the 13th is going to be very, very relevant, and that is when the date of the meningitis outbreak fairly recently in Kent, Friday the 13th. And Indigo did a great video. I should have commented. I didn't comment on it. I should have commented. He identified that there's lots of other 13 references to that meningitis outbreak. Can't remember exactly what they are, but the information he was giving was brilliant. Loads and loads of 13s tying in with that. And I think that is pertaining to the bloodline of Christ. And of course, Elon Musk came out in 2022 after I started exposing the fraud, and he changed Twitter to X. He then called his child an X. X is the symbol of the bloodline of Christ, according to the information. One line, Jesus, the other line, Mary Magdalene, a hooked part on it representing a baby, a hidden bloodline baby from the in relation to the bloodline of Christ. Now, I believe this is very likely why they introduced me to Exbourne Manor. If you invert that, born X. Okay, again, X relating to the bloodline of Christ. The X came off of that. I now suspect that was possibly deliberate. I didn't see it fall off. I ended up being the one putting that X back up on the wall. Okay, because I had to get up on the building because it was up above the roof bit outside, and I was the one that put that X up there well before I knew any about this. This was before I knew. This was in 2022, 2023, as I was starting to expose this. And then there's a DNA equals X company that was given that name, linking to X-Born Manor in 2023. After I started exposing the fraud, they created, or somebody created, DNA equals X tying to that building. You've also got St. Puy X, which goes back to 1977, which is the year I was born, when Marcel Lefebvre left the Vatican. He was against the Freemasons, opposed to the Freemasons, opposed to the modernization of the church. He then went to Switzerland with one of the princesses who was supposedly the head of one of the black nobility families there. He was courting somebody within the black nobility families. This was the year that I was born, 1977. My family used to take me a lot to Switzerland when I was a child. I remember we used to go there a lot. And in fact, I've been there more recently. And Anthony Roberts of X-Born Manor, he also, before I even knew about the fraud, we had conversations that he is very significantly connected to exactly the same place that we used to go to, Interlaken in Switzerland, which is where I used to go a lot when I was a child. And then he changed his Facebook picture from a picture of Interlaken as I continued my exposure. This is the acting chairman of X-Born Manor. He works for AFC Bournemouth, which becomes relevant to what we're going to be talking about later and connects directly into the research of, what's his name? I've forgotten his name now. Alistair Crowley, okay? And to the Crays, which my Crays used to, my family, my father's adopted side, I was led to believe, associated with the Cray twins, okay? Very, 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 very relevant in all of this. Anyway, we have, what was I going to say? There was something else I was going to say about that. Oh yeah, Marcel Lefebvre. So that happened in 1977. In 1970, he had created the, which was obviously 7 years earlier, he created the St. Puy X organization. Okay, and it was given a 6-year initial period. Bearing in mind the X, okay? This is where there was an issue within the Vatican of how the modernization of the church is going to fit in with moving forward with the modern times as technology is progressing, okay? And that was given a 6-year period. And that takes you to 1976, which is when Apple was created, the company Apple. And that originally had a symbol of Isaac Newton sat underneath the apple tree with an apple falling, which represents gravity. And gravity links into the CERN and collider technology, all tying in with gravitational fields. And if you go and look at CMF's CERN, you will see that they are claiming, whether it's possibly a deception, to have technology under CMS, which links to Jimmy Savile, which links to Donald Trump, that they are able to produce electromagnetic fields 100,000 times more powerful than the Earth. That's on CERN's own website. Could be a deception for me, however, it's there. So, of course, the apple falling represents gravitational pull. It also represents the torus field. All right, if you look at an apple, it concaves in the top, concaves at the bottom. This links into a dream that I had one day. I haven't publicized this a lot. I literally had a dream. One night, suddenly, for whatever reason, I was thinking of the Earth being concaved at the top and concaved at the bottom, like an apple. So I contacted somebody who keeps talking about the Earth being flat, and said, look, what do you make of this dream I've had? And I said, look, if you look at the Earth from the top, if it's got a concave in the top, then it would almost look like a flat Earth. Anyway, he then mentioned the torus field. So I looked up the torus field, and the torus field, if you look at it, almost looks like a black hole. Okay, like a spiral down, if you imagine looking in the top of, it's going to sound silly now, but you look at the top of an apple, it goes from big to a small point in the middle. And then at the bottom, it comes from a small point into a bigger part at the bottom of it. So it's gone through the apple, through the core, like the core of the Earth, and comes out the other side. Now, if you imagine a black hole, that's almost that shape going in, and then potentially the bottom of what's on the other side. Now, when you look at the magnetic field of the Earth, so we're being led to believe it's that shape, isn't it? Like an apple. It concaves in at the top and it concaves in at the bottom. I believe this was all deliberately meant for me to then find that 1976, when that Apple logo came out, it then changed its logo twice in 1977, the year that I was born. The first one was an apple with the rainbow sign, rainbow colours, and then it changed it with the bite out of it towards the end of 1977, and I was supposedly born. I might not have been born that time, but that's when I was led to believe I was born. And 1977 is when they removed the Albert Pike letter from view at the British Museum Library. It's also when Star Wars A New Hope came out, and it's also when 20,000 documents in relation to MK Ultra were declassified, I think, or something happened with 20,000 documents. I can't remember the exact wording in relation to that. And then there was more then released in 2001 as well, the same year as the World Trade Center disaster. So yeah, anyway, moving on. So we've got 13 Management, okay, according to this, linking with Taylor Swift, the main company handling her personal brand, business, affairs, and management. There's also some other ones here: Taylor Swift Productions Inc., in her in-house productions, etc., and Taylor Nation. And there's this other information that says here is what is known regarding the company structure, just talks about that. Production credits, mentions some of the stuff we've already mentioned, we've already spoken about. So anyway, let's have a little look at this. So company sales shows that 13 Management Limited, a company called 13 Management Limited, had been incorporated in March 2007, 2 months before Madeleine McCann went missing. And it dissolved on the 12th of July 2011. The year Swift apparently first used Taylor Swift Inc. in relation to the live company that we spoke about earlier. Okay. The year Swift apparently used it connects immediately to Exborn Manor by @UK PLC. Remember, I showed you that earlier. @UK PLC. We're going to look at this. I'm going to confirm it with you in a minute. @UK PLC via and links to Exborn Manor immediately via Property Solutions Southern Limited, the management company found in the people record of Exborn Manor, which also links almost immediately to Sasha Stone via a company called Jedi Management. Now, remember what I've just told you about? The Star Wars A New Hope movie came out the same year I was born. Sasha Stone, who links to information of the Vatican black nobility families, which ties into Marcel Lefebvre and the St. Prix X. He connects via the record, the research of him, almost immediately to Jedi Management. Jedi Management also connects to this that I'm telling you about now. 13 is significant, as I've said, in relation to the United States and the bloodline of Christ. Natalie Wood is born in 1976, is in this people record. I'm just going to show you this quickly. There's 13 Management Limited. You can see incorporated July 2011. Is that the same date that Diana Betts became a director? Not too sure, or resigned. I've got a feeling it might be. I can't remember. Have to check back at that. It was definitely July 2011 when she resigned, and then she came back in as a director, and she's linked to the blood via the being a phlebotomist in the NHS. Now, on the incorporation document for Exborn Manor, I forgot to show it earlier. Not only do you have Diana Betts, this was when it started in 2007. You've also got Anthony De Rea. Anthony De Rea, or the De Rea companies, shall we say, connects directly to the Vatican via my research, and that was established via the research of the death of Jill Dando. And you can see this company was incorporated in 15th of March 2007, which is the same year that Madeleine McCann went missing and Exborn Manor Freehold Limited was incorporated. So I'm going to show you the incorporation document. Remember, it was @UK PLC companies earlier when we looked at Exborn Manor, or Born X. And now we're just going to show you this just to confirm it. Here we go. Exactly the same companies. Not even it's the same address as well. It's the same address, obviously. Same company. So that now links directly to Exborn Manor Freehold Limited. I'm not too sure if to carry on or not. I'm going to be here for ages, to be honest with you, if I do all of this tonight. So I might leave the rest till tomorrow. So what day is it tomorrow? Shall I do it early? I can do it earlier, can't I? So if I say I'm going to leave it for now and hope that nothing happens to me. So if you come on 8 o'clock tomorrow, we'll do the rest of the evidence on this. So we're coming in at 13 management. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and later you're just going to see the evidence in relation to Alistair Crowley, and also the evidence coming in from Xena is just mind-blowing. How it all ties in is really, really huge. So thanks very much for watching, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all your support. I haven't seen any comments because I can't see it when I'm doing this research or showing you the research. So what I will do is I'll go across to TikTok now, just for a little while, just in case anyone's got any questions and they want to put some comments on there, and they can come on and talk to me. So my TikTok channel is @Gary4Freedom, the same as my YouTube. We'll go across there just for a little while, unless people really are engaging, and then you can come on there and speak to me. So that's @Gary4Freedom on TikTok. I'll go across there now, @Gary4Freedom. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back on YouTube. I'll be back on YouTube tomorrow at 8 p.m. and I'll go through the rest of this evidence. And it just, as I've said, it's mind-blowing.